conversation the body recalls what the mind buried. Letting off flow with no filters and no master carry.
Can we talk? A safe space you can share your thoughts. No pressure, just let down your guard. Let's talk it out, don't hold it in, just let it out. We all need release, that's what it's all about.
Get your mind, body, and soul ready for therapeutic sessions. So
can we talk? A safe space you can share your thoughts. No pressure.
Welcome to Blue Notes and Body Talk. So whatever you're doing, walking, driving, curled up with your thoughts, just take a deep breath, because all you need to know is you're safe here. Today we're peeling back something delicate. It's vulnerability, the kind that make your chest feel exposed, the kind that asks you to, be seen, be felt. But here's what I learned about vulnerability. It's not weakness, it's courage. It's in its purest form. It's soft, but it's not silent. And it can set you free. We're diving into what it means to drop the armor, to speak from the heart, and to let softness lead without apologies. And I'm not doing this one alone. Now, I told y'all from the beginning, this space is about honesty. It's about softness and the freedom that comes from letting your guard down. And today, I'm honored to share this space with two people who hold that kind of truth with care. First, let me introduce to you all Brianna Furlow. Brianna, she is a devoted mother of two beautiful girls. She's also a pre-K educator, a woman who navigated life after divorce with grace and also grit, and a whole lot of growth. She's someone who reminds us that softness isn't weakness. It's the power in its purest form. In the moment of uncertainty, you can still choose to show up as yourself fully and freely. And later in the episode, we'll be joined by LaRon Bell. He is a father, a brother, and someone who knows what it means to evolve in the heartbreak. LaRon brings a grounded male perspective on the emotional honesty and also healing. You will hear him read a response to a few questions that I asked him to reflect on. And we're going to explore together his insight. And just know his insight will hit a little different. So I want you all to make sure you stay tuned for that. But for now, let's get comfortable. Let's take a deep breath. Now let's get into that conversation. Welcome, Brianna. Welcome to Blue Notes and Body Talk. So how are you today?
I'm doing good. Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
Well, that's good. So, today we're talking about vulnerability, softness, and stuff like that. So when you hear the word soft, I don't want you to give me the textbook dictionary, but the first thing that comes to mind, how do you describe softness?
Okay, so I'm a 90s baby. So when I think of soft, I think of, soft girl era, being in a peaceful state of mind, happy, not just, being in survival mode, but thriving, being content with where you are in life.
Okay. I feel you. Yeah, so I can agree with that because I'm an 80s baby. Oh, let me not tell my age. But I do feel that when you think of softness, you think of that soft era. You think that, especially in today's society, that sometimes, you can't be too soft. You
Right.
got to have that hard exterior. But yeah, the softness, we're going to dive deep into that and with these questions. Ooh, I hope you're ready.
I'm buckled up.
So, growing up, what did softness look like for you?
So to be honest, I never really saw um, a lot of softness growing up. Um, we came from very, very humble beginnings. And so a lot of my family members, a lot of the people that I surrounded myself with were very much in their survival mode, day by day, living paycheck to paycheck, putting their kids or their partners first a lot of times before putting themselves first, not really getting an opportunity to experience just being at peace, being at a present moment, and enjoying life at a time. Everybody was always saying, okay, what's the next move? How can I do this to better myself here? How can I leave a legacy for my kids here? When you kind of start from little to nothing,
Right.
And you don't surround yourself with a lot of opportunities to help yourself grow, or even, those opportunities are not available to you at that time, it's kind of hard to experience that soft side of life.
Okay. Deep.
Right.
Girl, you took that deep.
Right.
So I also want to incorporate silence. So at any time while you were growing up, how did that softness and silence work in your household dynamic?
Um, I really hate the saying that children are to be seen, not heard. So depending on the family member, I heard that a lot.
Right.
And even as a child, it made me cringe. Definitely as an adult, it made me cringe. Um, because one thing about it, my mom was never silent. You always heard her before you saw her.
Right.
My mom was the type to speak up when things need to be addressed. She was not the type that just let water slide off her back. My mom was the type that when there was something um, that she needed to get off her chest, she got it off her chest. So as a child, I never really experienced a lot of adults not really speaking up for themselves and advocating for themselves. But it was just always weird to me hearing, especially some of the elder members of the family, say that children should be seen and not heard, because what it did to me as a child, maturing into an adult, put into me that my thoughts and feelings did not matter.
Right.
So it was kind of a rocky transition as an adult, learning how to express myself and learning how to speak up and advocate for myself.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is that the shift from a childhood to adulthood, that transition right there was a piece of work on you because you were taught to be seen and not heard.
Right.
So you kept a lot of stuff bottled in.
Yes.
So with you keeping all that stuff bottled in, do you think instead of being soft, you were hard?
Oh yeah. Especially being a woman. Sometimes I even have to ask myself, like, are you being very feminine right now? um,
What Steve Harvey said? What he said? Think like a lady.
think like a lady, act
Like
like
a
a man.
man.
I kind of, yeah, I grew a hard exterior where I really did start. I acted like a lady, but I thought like a man. And I never really like thought about it one day until I was in college. I had a lot of male friends in college, and we were just talking regular talk. And one of them turned to me and said, "Dang, like I'm looking at you and I see the girl, but what's coming out your mouth is like stuff I talk about around my boys." And I was like, I ain't say it out loud, but in my mind, I'm like, dang, am I really like that mannish? And like even like with relationships, I just had a very hard time expressing myself. My ex-husband would tell me that all the time. You just gotta walk. doing it. My ex-boyfriend would tell me that, and I guess it never really clicked into this moment.
Right.
Why I always had that wall. Why I would let them inside, but they would never get past a certain brick.
Right. So they're not in Brianna, they're just there with her.
Yeah.
Okay. So both of us know about divorce. And within that time, going through divorce, we had that shift when it comes to loving somebody else and relearning ourselves even. So could you tell me about your transition and, how did you have to relearn yourself and how did you even reintroduce Brianna after the divorce?
It took a whole lot of rebuilding and rebranding, I would say, from the ground up. In every aspect that you could think of, financially, spiritually, emotionally, physically, socially. It took a lot of shadow work. Really just having those little self interventions with myself, acknowledging what I could have done better, and learning from those mistakes. It took a whole lot of nights spent crying, acknowledging the pain, the hurt, the anger that was on a constant roller coaster, on constant replay all the time. And then honoring those emotions, accepting those emotions, acknowledging those emotions in the moment. I could just remember there were times I would be showering, I would be fine, a song would come on, and now I'm crying. There were times where I would be hanging out with friends, having a good time, and I could smell a certain scent, and now memory has been triggered. Just looking at my girls sometimes during, I don't know, little game nights, movie nights at the house, seeing that empty space where their father should have been occupied, would just sadden me in the moment that was supposed to be a peaceful, happy, cherishable memory with my girls. But it did take a lot of self-work. It took a lot of inner work. It took a lot of, okay, you were young at that time, and so this is what you did. It took a lot of me instead of, okay, you have abandonment issues. And I mean, I had to even go as far back to my parents, to the relationship I had with my mom, the relationship I had with my dad, to just really accept the fact that a lot of the problems and issues that I had in my marriage stem from the fact that I felt abandoned as a child. The traumatic experiences that I experienced, and not being able to process and really cope and understand those at that age carried me into adulthood and a divorce that made me really sit down and face those emotions and process those emotions. And then the letting go of all of those emotions. So I could really move forward, move past those things to become the mom, the sister, the friend, the professional that I am today. But it was not easy work.
It was not. So when we met, I think we were both going through our separation at the same time. And what I can say, I have seen the growth from then until now. And it is an amazing growth to see on you. I've seen those nights of you like, oh my God, I can't believe this, or I can't believe that. And now you're just like, okay, we're going to co-parent. We're going to do this like adults. And that is beautiful. It is beautiful to co-parent. And I know sometimes co-parenting can be hard, especially in some of our situations. But when you actually have it to where the two adults can actually sit down, talk. Yes, I may say things that you don't like. You may say things that I don't like. But at the end of the day, we're going to be here and we're going to do it for the kids.
Right.
You may have a spouse or a partner or a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it is. And we're going to leave those on the outside and we're going to work together as this team. And then we can go back to our partners and discuss whatever. So I think that is very beautiful that we can do that. Now, I couldn't do it in my first divorce. I've been divorced twice. So I couldn't do it in my first one for whatever reason. But my second one, we are on point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is nothing nobody from the outside can say about what we're going to do or how we're going to handle our children. And I think that is very beautiful. And I believe you can attest to this. Now, you just correct me if I'm wrong. In the beginning, you were like,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. In the beginning, I was still experiencing hurt and pain, but in self-denial with it. And I know I was, because small things that don't bother me now really, really bother me back then. You can attest, because I would call you. I would say, it is what it is. I don't care.
Yeah.
But I really did care. And it really wasn't what it was.
Right.
So just having those moments, and then having a common goal with my co-parent. I know at the end of the day, there's no mountain he would have crossed or ocean he would have swim for our kids. And he knows the same about me. So having that common goal that despite our differences, we are going to be here for these girls no matter what.
Right.
Is really what motivates me, what keeps me going. And it's my main focus through everything.
I'm so sorry. I know I'm there for a long time.
So, in that moment of your transition, was there any point where you felt like you weren't enough, or you felt like maybe you were too hard to deal with?
Most definitely. Divorce really lowered my self-esteem. Divorce did a lot of things. Of course, we go into life and we go into a marriage not thinking that it would end up in divorce or separation. So it really took a lot of just telling myself you could do it.
Right.
And not comparing myself to other people. Social media had me in a chokehold. I would see all these happy couples, and I'm just like, dang, they make it look so easy. Why couldn't we do be like that?
Right.
But then not realizing that that's what we see on camera.
Right.
We don't see the behind the scenes. We don't see the arguments. We don't see, the breakups, the makeups. We just see what they want us to see. So I had to start comparing myself and my situation to other people and their situation, because truth be told, everyone experienced everyone a little bit differently. Me and you went through something similar, but at the same time, there were differences in what we went through. So I just really had to pay close attention to my situation, what I could pull from that and what I could learn. The transition, like I mentioned, was really rough. It was more so rough on me. But I thank God it wasn't rough on my girls.
Right.
We had already started the transition when they were really young. So in their mind, I don't think they really realized that, oh, daddy isn't around as much as he used to be. Or, oh, mommy isn't as happy as she used to be. Those were some things in the beginning when they were young that I hid from them, the crying at night. Because I just didn't want them to see mommy crying. In my mind, I'm like, I have to be strong for my girls. I'm the sole provider now. So, I can't break. I can't let up. I have to keep going. And for me, letting them see me cry, and I don't know why I associate crying in front of my kids as a sign of weakness, but I'm like, I can't be weak. I got to be strong. And maybe it's because growing up, I didn't see my mom cry. I didn't see my aunt cry. I didn't see my older cousins cry, at least not in front of me. They cried when we weren't around. So I always kind of associated crying as a weakness. But the more I matured, the more I did my shadow work, the more I grew, I realized that crying is a release. And it's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. Yep. It's a sign of vulnerability. At the end of the day, we want those who we love to be vulnerable with us. Right. So why not be vulnerable with the ones we love? And so it was really just a journey. I like to say I was a caterpillar and now I'm a butterfly. But I'm still learning, I'm still healing, and I'm still processing. So it's an ongoing process. It's never there never won't be a destination. I'm going to continue to go through the motions because that's the way I feel. I continue to grow, right, and heal and get to the point where I want to be eventually.
Right. So with you being now a single mom, how has that shifted your softness, and how has that transferred over to your girls? Like, how do you show them how to be soft? Because, you know, you explained a lot about your past and your growing up in your childhood and how it affected you and how you had to learn that softness is okay. So what are you doing to teach them that softness is okay and that you don't have to be hardened by the world?
The opposite of what I remember growing up. Instead of, keeping that mindset, children are to be seen, not heard, I created an open, safe space for my kids to voice their feelings, their concerns. And I tried not to get too upset, get too mad of how they felt.
Right.
And I try not to ever make them feel like their voice or their feelings don't matter. I'm always asking them, okay, well, how do you feel about this? Okay, well, how do you feel about that? Even last night, we just had a conversation where I asked them if they feel like I'm controlling or if I'm a little lenient. They both was like, you lenient. My youngest at first was like, you control it. And I was like, why you saying that? And she just had it look at her face like, I don't know if I should. I'm like, it's okay.
I don't know if I should have said that.
You think I control it. And she was like, well, sometimes when you get mad at us, you yell at us. I said, oh, okay. I said, so when I yell at you, how does that make you feel? And she was like, well, sometimes it makes me feel sad. I said, okay, well, can you give me an example of when I yelled at you that makes you feel sad? She was like, yeah, and sometimes when Jason do stuff and you think that I do stuff and you yell at me, it just makes me feel sad because I didn't do it. And I was like, oh, okay. I said, I can understand why you would feel sad at that moment. I said, so do you think I have control over my emotions most of the time or they just be everywhere? And she was like, I think you have control sometimes. It's just when you're mad. I said, so what you're telling me is that I need to work on my anger. She was like, yes. I said, okay, so let's do this. I said, when I'm upset and I'm talking to you, I said, we got to have us a safe word.
Okay.
And I said, what do you think the safe word should be? And she was just thinking she could come up with a safe word. We had just had popcorn. I had to take some popcorn that night. And I had popped us some popcorn. I said, okay, what about popcorn? And she started laughing. She said, popcorn? I said, yeah. I said, because I said, popcorns are like little dried up pieces of corn. And then when you heat them up, they pop up into the popcorn. I said, so when I get heated, when you tell me popcorn, that lets me know to take it down a couple of notches, and I'll do the same for you.
I like
and she
that.
was like, okay, mama. She said, yeah, we could do that popcorn. So just having more of those type of conversations and really just letting my girls know, like, I'm your mama. At the end of the day, despite how you feel, I am here for you. Your voices will be heard with me because I don't want them to feel like how I felt. Right. My thing is, I will shut down emotionally if I feel like my feelings are not being heard. I will shut down. I will isolate. And I don't want them to ever get to the point where they think their mom doesn't care how they feel. And I want them to be able to have a healthy relationship with their emotions. And I want them to be able to express that, not just to me, but to others that I have a relationship with.
Right. So how do you make room for Brianna's emotions now with the shift of everything? How do you make room for that? Because you do have two little girls and everybody in the house is a woman, including the dog.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, there could be moments where everything is on 10 because, we know how us as women can be. So how do you handle that for Brianna?
Well, one thing that I have learned through my divorce, just maturing, is I'm going to have to start openly communicating how I feel.
Okay.
So when my girls do something that make me mad, I say, look, y'all done make me mad. Or I'm about to go take 5, which means I'm about to go in my room, close my door, don't come in here unless it's an emergency. And it has trickled down to them to where I have seen them on separate occasions.
Mm-hmm.
They will go in their room, they will close their door. But before they walk out the room, they'll say, I just need to take 5. I used to meditate a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I would meditate because there used to be times where I just felt so imbalanced. Holding those emotions in just made me feel like I was going crazy sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have to just meditate and ground myself to get back balance. And I never really knew how much my girls were watching until one day we were out at a park. It was a peaceful, beautiful day. And I saw them sitting on the blanket like this.
Not with the hand.
Yes, in the in the meditation pose, and I'm like, okay, not y'all meditating, and they shushed me.
Oh,
I said, oh, okay, let them do their thing. So in our house, we are very verbal about how we feel.
Mm-hmm.
We isolate when we need to isolate, so we can calm down, and when we're ready, we regroup.
Okay. So what does emotional safety look like for you now?
Emotional safety looks like me just being able to be my authentic self around the people that I love.
Mm-hmm.
It also looks like me being aware of my emotions, but also aware of others' emotions. It's me being able to verbally communicate and then not being offended when someone else verbally communicates to me how they feel. It's being open to receive and listen, not just to myself but to others.
Mm-hmm.
And regulating my emotions, especially my anger.
Oh, popcorn.
Popcorn.
So, what is something that you needed in the past when it came to your emotional safety that you are now learning to ask for?
I would say being heard.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big one to me. I feel like I always had a wall up because I feel like I was never heard.
Mm-hmm.
So in the moments where I do get comfortable enough to, come out that shell a little bit and express how I feel, if the person that I'm communicating with does not alert me that they value what I'm saying, then I kind of get closed back up. So to me, it looks like just hearing what I have to say, acknowledging what I've said. I may not always be right, but just acknowledging how I feel in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then giving me a safe space to talk about it. Because if I don't feel like I'm in a safe space to talk about it, then I won't.
So how has your support system shifted when it comes to you and your emotions and how to deal with things, how to deal with the girls? And because, you don't have that husband that you used to have to lean on anymore. It's just Brianna now. So what kind of support system do you have now?
So now that looks like having a lot of girlfriends on standby that I could call and vent to. It looks like me calling somebody up can I vent to you for a second? And just being able to have that listening ear. And I'm very appreciative for those relationships. I don't know how I would have come this far without them, but that's what it looked like. And it looks like a lot of prayer.
Yeah.
A lot of it.
Yes, having those girlfriends there to help you is amazing. Having that friend group there is also great because we have to have that sisterhood. You know, that's how a lot of our mothers, grandmothers got through a lot of things with having that sisterhood. And, you know, I know that we talked a lot about us as women, you know, what divorce looks like for us. I don't know if you remember LaRon, my son's godbrother, but he also went through a divorce with his wife, and he also has two girls, which he calls his two queens, which is awesome. I love it. And I did, you know, sit down and ask him a few questions. And, you know, that was just something for him to meditate on. And he did give us a response. And I have the questions that I asked LaRon, and I asked him, as a father of girls, how has divorce changed the way you show up emotionally? And, you know, we talked about our emotions. And I just think it's really good to hear from a male, and because they don't always show us their emotion.
Right.
So I did want to make sure that we had a male perspective for the males that have also, you know, going through divorce. And then I asked him for, you know, not just for the girls, but for yourself. And I asked him what he had to unlearn about vulnerability, you know, because in society, we don't see men as soft or vulnerable or anything like that. I also asked him, what would you say to another man who's afraid to express the pain after divorce? Because we don't see the man's side, because they may go into their hole because they were taught men don't cry.
Right.
And I asked him, do he think men have that safe space? Now, I do think there's a shift with the generation for men to start having safe spaces, but not every man feels that way, you know, because we do have those manly men.
Right.
They don't want to show that because they were taught to be that protector, that provider. You don't cry, you don't do this. So, but I am glad to see that there are some groups for divorced men and not just women. So let's tune in and let's listen to what LaRon has to say.
For any man who is having issues expressing their pain after divorce, the main thing I would say to them is that it's okay to feel that way. That fear or even that sense of embarrassment, I think it's perfectly fine to be in that type of headspace. Just because expressing your emotions and feelings already, you know, if it's not something that you've done regularly, especially after a divorce that involves children, you can't have that sense of difficulty when it comes to expressing how you feel. After relating to them to know that it's okay to feel that way, I would then ask them, is there any one person, family, friend, confidant, that they have the ability to be vulnerable with? Because not everybody has that person or that group. I was thankful enough to always have that. Even though I've had that my entire life, I still had that struggle of isolating myself to not speaking about my feelings and emotions and the thoughts that I had.
That was amazing. And I felt like he put a lot into his responses. He actually gave us those heartfelt, deep responses. And the questions that I asked, he did have to sit and think with those for a while to pull that out. And it is amazing to see a man express those, and to get LaRon's answers in its entirety. Hit subscribe.
Yeah, y'all, because he said a lot, and we don't want you all to miss out.
So, Brianna, I'm curious, like, what do you think about that? You know, being the mother on this side and actually hearing how a man views divorce, because we don't really see it sometimes. So I'm curious to know, like, what do you think about those responses?
Well, first of all, I would like to give LeBron his kudos for digging deep and being vulnerable with this. That's not something that I'm used to or see a lot in the men folk of this society.
Right.
His perspective shed a lot of light on some of the things that men go through with a divorce. With me and my ex, we had already separated, and at the time that we were separated, we were in two different cities. So I didn't really get to, see that side. I don't know what he went through. All I have are his accounts of what he told me that he went through, and I'm very glad that he mentioned canceling. I think that's something that as a Black community, more of us are starting to do that for ourselves, but I really wish a lot more of us would do that. I don't think my ex went to canceling. I know I did not go to canceling. And maybe if we both did go to canceling, just trying to deal with the hurt, the pain, navigate ourselves through those feelings probably would have been a smoother process than trying to self medicate and self help ourselves through that. I also like the fact that he pointed out separation anxiety, not just with his children, but with him.
Right.
I'm not sure if my ex experienced that. I'm pretty sure he did.
Right.
Considering that during the start of our divorce, I was a custodial parent. I had the girls about 90% of the time, and they were very young themselves at that age. And so I can only imagine, him feeling left out, especially, he sees them a month later and it's like, oh my God, I don't remember you being able to say these type of things. And so it was just eye opening to get a male's perspective, to see some of the things that they mentally go through.
Okay. So I'm gonna ask you almost like a similar question that I asked LaRon. What would you tell a woman that's going through divorce? Because, especially us as Black women, we were taught to be independent, be strong, and don't show this side, don't show that side. So what would you tell a woman that's going through divorce? What would you tell her?
I would tell her, first and foremost, not to blame herself. I believe as women, we tend to kind of blame ourselves a lot. Some of the first couple of questions I asked myself was I not good enough? What did I do? So I would definitely say, don't blame yourself. Really look back at some of your actions, some of your behaviors, and really do a deep dive into those to see what could you have done better. How were you thinking? How were you feeling at the time that happened? Because as we all know, divorce is not just something that is brought upon us.
Right.
It's something that a lot of us typically mentally, we have already checked out on that other person before we sign those papers. So just retracing the steps before the divorce, what led up to the divorce, to really just take a deep dive on where they were mentally when that happened, and then to accept their emotions as they're going through that healing process, to be very vulnerable and honest with their kids as they're going through that healing process. A lot of us feel like, oh, my baby is too young to really know what's going on, which that may be true. But at the end of the day, I would much rather for my daughter to hear some things from me than a few years down the line, she's thinking about a moment and she's wondering, dang, I wonder why my mama didn't come to me and tell me about that.
Right.
So I would just say it's a learning process. It is a transition, but it doesn't have to stay a painful transition.
Right.
If we can really just dig down deep and see the beauty that certain things have to happen. A caterpillar has to go. Has to go into a cocoon in order to come out into a butterfly. And so we can look at divorce like that. In the end, we could come out much better people.
Yes, I agree. I also want to encourage my listeners to sit with a question. I want you to sit with this question, whether you're journaling it, whether you are just having that thought out loud. I want you to sit with, what are you holding back when it comes to your softness? And also, why? Why are you holding that back? And Brianna, I would like to thank you for coming today. I would like to thank you for your honesty and your presence within being here. Thank you for sitting with us today. Thank you for letting us hold this space. Thank you for listening with your heart and just seeing yourself through the words that we shared. Softness isn't easy, but it's necessary. And if anything else, I hope this episode reminds you of that you don't have to hide any part of what you feel. Be tender, be soft, be all of those things, because you deserve that. You deserve all of it. So also join us next week. And next week, it's just gonna be me and the mic. We're gonna take it kind of slow. This episode is solo. It's called Held, Not Fixed. And I'll be sharing some of my personal reflections. And that means I'm going to also be showing my vulnerability during this time. So I hope to all see you here next week for episode 3. And until then, this is Lady Blue with Blue Notes and Body Talk.
Cracks a conversation, the body recalls what the mind buried. Letting off flow with no filters and no mask to carry.
Can we talk? A safe space you can share your thoughts. No pressure, just let down your guard. Let's talk it out, don't hold it in, just let it out. We all need release, it's what it's all about.
Get your mind, body, and soul ready for therapeutic sessions. So
can we